Hey everyone, this is Ashley Ellenboss with Sky House Herb School and Apothecary, and today I'm joining you from my sitting room space. And I've pulled out four of my must-have herb books. Now, this was really hard for me because there's so many good books, but I tried to pick four that would work for all levels of herbal interests. So I hope this is helpful and you can distinguish between these books, which one or ones might be a good fit for you. So let's start. So the first book is the one for beginners. So if you are newer to herbalism, you love plants, but maybe you don't know a lot about how herbs are used as medicine, maybe you don't necessarily want to be an herbalist. You just want to learn more about the plants. And especially, let's say you have an interest in more of their history of use, their magical uses, the flower essences, kind of have a little bit more of a broad interest in plants. Then this book called Flower Power is definitely one of my top. I use this all the time. And this is one of the books I require for my year one apprenticeship. It's called Flower Power by Anne McIntyre, and I'll include a link to this book and the details so you can find it for yourself. Now, this book is filled with beautiful images of the plants. It gives you stories about the uses of this plant throughout history. And it's not just Western history, but throughout the world. So in Egypt, in Africa, in Australia, all of the different ways some of these plants have been used. It also tells about how the plant is used more commonly in more modern herbal medicine. So it will give you a list of herbal actions. Herbal actions are going to be the things that the plant does in the body. So it can be an expectorant, which is what I need right now, which loosens phlegm and moves it out. I'm just getting over a cold, so that's an action that I have my eye on right now. It might also have actions like, what could we say? Maybe like a diuretic to help move urine, right? So you can think of any of those actions that is going to be listed in here, along with the homeopathic applications, which I think is really, really interesting. So if you want to learn a little bit about homeopathy, and like, let's say you're pregnant, you're nursing, you're on a lot of medications, and you're not sure if this herb is a safe fit, then the homeopathic version of these herbs can be accessible to you because there are no known contraindications for homeopathic. So you can learn a little bit about the homeopathic use, the use of the flower essence, and sometimes there's a little poetry too in there about the plant. So that's really beautiful. And then it also tells you the flower's essence or sort of its spirit teaching. So for example, angelica, the flower of inspiration, sweet chestnut, the flower of virtue, century, the flower of chiron, witch hazel, the flower of divination. So really, really wonderful, rich book. So this is a must-have. My second must-have book is for those of you who are interested in herbal medicine, but you're interested in clinical herbal medicine. Like you want to learn how to use the plants in people. And that could be people in your house. It could be your kids, your partner. It could be your friends and family. It doesn't necessarily mean you want to become a, herbalist that's working and taking in clients. But this book is the foundation of energetics in Western herbal medicine. And I just love this book. It goes through the 6 tissue states. Oh, I should tell you who it's by. It's by Matthew Wood, who is one of my kind of core teachers and just an overall incredible herbalist, storyteller, and I think he's a real master of herbal energetics. So this is a book he wrote many years ago, but it holds up. It's excellent. And I also recommend this book or require this book in my herbal apprenticeship course, which by the way, I'm not sure when I'm going to offer again. I know a lot of you have been asking, when are you going to start teaching your courses? And I don't know, but I do know that my husband and I are going to be offering a moon cycle herb and astrology course in the new year. So stay tuned for more information about that. So I will be teaching in that course, which is going to meet twice a month on the new moon and the full moon. So bookmark that. Okay, what else does this book have? This book also has a bunch of herbs listed by their energetic. So, for example, it has a whole section on herbs which are considered to be nutritive tonics. So, which herbs are going to help rejuvenate the tissues, the flesh, rejuvenate and feed the nervous system. It has a whole section of herbs that are astringent. So, herbs that tonify and draw fluids out of the tissues. And then it tells you specifically, it goes through a list of herbs and it tells you the taste of the herb, the tissue state, the organ affinities. So, which organs does this particular plant have an affinity to? And then specific indications. Who is this plant best for? What, and this is the great thing about what Matthew Wood does in all of his books, is he really gives you a clear picture of the type of person who would benefit from an individual plant that you can go back to. It also has a really nice index. So if you're looking at, I know you guys can't see this, but if you want to find herbs for the eyes, there's a whole, you can look at the index and see herbs for the eyes, herbs for gallstones, herbs for hair loss. And it's a very useful book in that way. The third book is a book for herb geeks and people who really like science. This is one that I use a lot. This is one that I require in my year 2 apprenticeship only because it has everything you need all in one place. Now, that does come with a hefty price tag. I think this book is $160 or $150, something like that. So that's US dollars. Worth it if you want to know all of the clinical research that has been done on a specific plant. This is an evidence-based guide. This is the 4th edition. It's called Herbs and Natural Supplements, an Evidence-Based Guide by Leslie Braun and Mark Cohen. And again, I will include the link so you can find it. The 4th edition is the most recent edition. I'm recording this in 2022, so maybe there's going to be a newer one later. But the 4th edition, you always want to get, when you're getting these evidence-based books, you always want to get the latest edition because things do change. So you'll see this book is, this is not like, oh, I'm going to sit outside in the garden and read. This is like, I'm going to dive into some really hefty material that's, small fine print. So for example, I just opened Echinacea. It will tell you a little bit of the history of Echinacea, the common names, the plant parts used, all of the chemical compounds, which is really helpful, when you're a clinician or you're a medicine maker, to understand what are the compounds in the plants, because then you start to, when you know the compounds and understand how they work in the body, it helps you understand why the actions and why they do what they do and why they do what you might not want them to do as well. It goes through pharmacokinetics, which is how the herb is changed in the body. It has all a list of the main actions and then what it does, which is really cool. So for example, here we have Echinacea, and it has one of the main actions is that it's an immunomodulator. That means it regulates, it either upregulates or downregulates the immune system based on the needs of the body. And you might think, well, how do these compounds know the needs of the body? Well, here's the way that I think about it. So the body is kind of like, the body is like a computer, or you could say it's like, it's an information warehouse. And our bodies have evolved alongside plants. So when you take these compounds into your body has evolved with these compounds. So it recognizes them and knows what to do. So for example, if you're trying to, let's say, modify a video, like, cut and splice the images to make a video, well, you have to have certain software. But once you see that software, you'll be like, oh yeah, this is the software that's going to do that thing. But then I'm going to use it how I want to use it because I've got an intelligent mind and body. Herbs, that's the same way that the plants work in the human body, is that when your body sees this plant come in, like, oh, here's these compounds which make up echinacea, your body recognizes those individual compounds and it goes, oh, these are like the building blocks and I know what to do with them. And because your body is so intelligent and wise, it will say, okay, this compound, you go over here and you help upregulate the phagocytes to help clear this infection out of my body. And you anti-inflammatory compounds, you go over here and help to ease inflammation in tissue damage in this area. So your body picks and chooses those phytochemicals and puts them to work. And if your body doesn't want to use something, it just excretes it out. It's pretty darn amazing. So I digress. But anyway, so it goes through things like that. So it'll tell you how the plant works as an immunomodulator, but what it does even, which is even very, not cooler, but nothing's cooler than what I just said, but what's equally as fascinating is the science behind it. So under immunomodulation, it'll go through specific studies where echinacea has been used to modulate the immune system. And sometimes it's done in vivo, so it's done in human bodies. Sometimes it's done in vitro, so it's done in like tissue cultured cells outside of the body. Sometimes it's done through clinical trials where they take large groups of people and they study the outcome and they assess it in very particular standardized ways, right? And all of that can be found in this book. So, if you really love science and you want to understand, how does this plant hold up under the scientific microscope, you'll find all of that information here. It also tells you how it's used clinically. So it'll give you clinical trials, but it'll also give you sort of general clinical uses. And it will give you the dosage range, which is really helpful if you're using the herbs. Like, what is the recommended dose for a tincture or a tea? And you're not going to find that in these other books. Just not going to find it. It also goes through adverse reactions. So for Echinacea, for example, if you're allergic to plants in the Asteraceae family, you might have an allergic reaction to this plant because it's in the Asteraceae family. It can also tell you significant interactions with different drugs, like cyclophosphamine has a reaction with Echinacea and other immunosuppressant drugs. So that's really helpful. Again, if you're working with yourself or someone else who's on medications and you just want to make sure that it's going to be safe. And then it tells you about its use in pregnancy, how long to use it for, contraindications and precautions, and then frequently asked questions. I mean, it has everything. So this book must have. And then my last must have book is kind of more of a beauty book. It's one of those books that you get because plants speak to your heart and the beauty of them overwhelms you and you want to connect with them in a way that other like-minded herbalists do. So this book is called Weeds in the Heart by Nathaniel Hughes and Fiona Owen. This book is like candy. Let me just show you. It starts off with this beautiful map with all the plants in it, sort of where the plant likes to grow, some of the spirit animal associations with the plants. Then we go into, this book doesn't have a ton of herbs, but it has enough of our most loved herbs. So it has dandelion, cleavers, rose, chamomile, marigold, horsetail, lemon balm, St. John's wort, and others. So, this is a book on intuitive herbalism. So think about, if you're really interested in looking at these two herbalists, their perspective on how their intuition and their students, they give a lot of stories of their students using these plants and intuitive hits that have come up, trauma release work that's been done. And then just these photos, they're gold plated. So can you see that shine? I just have to show you up close. I mean, the artwork in these books is just stunning. I mean, it feels like you're holding like a holy grail into these beautiful plants. This is dandelion. Just gorgeous, gorgeous. And let me see, I'll give you an example. So I'll read a little bit about rose from this book. And like every page is beautiful. I mean, every page just has beautiful artwork on it, poetry, stories. So let me just read you a little bit from Rose. Our foundation, the cauldron of warming, is strengthened by many of the same qualities that nourish the kidneys in Chinese medicine: warmth, regularity, nourishing foods, rich oils, root vegetables, and meat, strong rooting in our geographical location, a sense of community, a sense of place, and the security of loving relationships. Herbs such as nettle, marshmallow, valerian, and rhodiola can support the healing of the center. Gentle physical exercise and the meditative practice of centering our consciousness and breath on this area can have a potent effect. No plant can equal rose when we seek initiation and healing for the heart and the cauldron of vocation. When we extend our hearts to the plants, we can perceive the plant through the fog of our own conditioning. However, if we keep reaching consciously, moving through our own pain and projection, the being and inspiration of the plant crystallizes. We find ourselves initiated and transformed by the plant, opened one more degree to the web of life that fills us, surrounds us, and is us. So I mean, just beautiful, beautiful writing in this. And then they give stories, some exercises and ways to connect with the plant. They talk about chemistry in this book. So there's a whole section here about tannins. On Rose, there's a story of Rose, the elephant, and the bumblebee. And yeah, some safety notes. So it's just, again, like this is a must-have book because it's just so delightful, I think, for all of your senses. And it like inspires you if you have been maybe stuck indoors just to get outside and to connect with the plants. So this one is amazing. So friends, time's up. That's what I have for you today. I hope this was helpful. I hope maybe one or more of these books jumped out and spoke to you and you thought to yourself, oh my gosh, I've been waiting for this book. Then yeah, get it. I hope that happened. I hope you just go and buy it and spend some time just sitting back with a cup of tea or sitting out in a garden or a park and just soaking in this information, because we fill our minds with so much information that's not helpful and so little information that is helpful. So choose helpful information to download. All right, everyone. I'm going to go back and sip my tea and rest a little bit because this cold is almost gone. And I know that the only recipe for true healing is just doing that, resting, sipping tea, and softening. So thank you all. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon.